Welcome back, everyone, to another Captain Patriot video. Hope you guys are having a wonderful day today. I'm taking a look at this new video, the neopronouns dilemma in the LGBT community. So let's just take a look, and I'm going to pause and add my thoughts throughout.
I identify as art supplies. Trans women react to delusional and psychotic neopronouns. I've been thinking about making a video like this for a while now, and right now I'm not even motivated enough to just record my voice and then edit my gacha character in CapCut. I'm too lazy to write down any form of script, so this is
Same.
just going to be me talking and explaining what neopronouns are and why are they fucking valid. First of
Okay. Yeah, I always see this, right? It feels like the conversation kind of always starts here with the assertion that something is valid, right? That way, if you try and disagree with it right off the bat, they're going to say, "Oh, well, you're denying something that's true or real or whatever." But I think what it really stems from is the idea that we're supposed to step into their world and call them a certain name or pronoun or whatever it might be to make them feel comfortable in their reality, when in reality they should be stepping into reality and accepting life as it is rather than what they want it to be. And I have no problem with anyone who wants to call themselves whatever name or whatever pronoun or whatever it might be. If that's what they want to do, more power to you, because it doesn't affect me at all. The issue becomes when you start telling people that they need to refer to you by a certain pronoun or a certain name or whatever it might be, even when they're not in the room, right? And to not do that is to be hateful or bigoted or disrespectful or any of those things, right? And I don't think they are. I don't think not using someone's preferred pronouns is disrespectful or rude at all. It's just, to me, setting a clear boundary on what is or what isn't appropriate when it comes to conversation and freedom of speech, right? You don't get to tell me what I can refer to you as. I can refer to you as something horrendous or awful if I want to, and that's my decision. And you don't get to tell me that I can't do that, right? So this entire conversation kind of stems from the idea that we are expected to refer to them as they deem, I guess, appropriate, without any of our input into the conversation whatsoever, right? And that's kind of where the whole, this is valid, right? Immediately right out the gate comes from is, oh, this is valid, and so you have to listen, right? You have to obey me. You have to do what I say. You have to use the words that I tell you you can use, and you can't use the words I tell you you can't. So it's like it's a very bizarre and a very dangerous way to go, is when you start telling people words they can and can't use.
First of all, what comes along with neopronouns are xenogenders. According to Gender Wiki, xenogender is a non-binary identity and umbrella term in which one's gender goes beyond the human understandings of gender.
Wow. Okay. Okay. All right. Hold up. Wait. Wait. So I can't even understand it because I'm only human. So a xenogender is a non-binary identity and umbrella term in which one's gender goes beyond the human understandings of gender. So then how is anyone supposed to understand it? How is anyone supposed to actually have a grasp on this? How are you supposed to teach people if this is what you're saying is real to you, right? And I just love how it comes from Gender Wiki, right? And it's a .fandom.com. Of course it is. Of course it's a fandom, because that's really what it boils down to, right? It's a lot of people with a similar interest, and they're all in their echo chamber, and this is what they listen to. This is what they watch. And this is the type of, I guess, thinking that happens within this echo chamber, right? And it's beyond human understanding. So no human could possibly understand what this actually is. And it goes further, right? It says, so beyond the human understandings of gender, and is instead crafted by other methods of gender categorization. This may include genders that are related to animals, plants, or other things that are not traditionally a gender. So literally anything, right? And this is kind of the problem that we kind of fall into with this ideology, is when anything can go, then it's like nothing matters. Right? Then nothing means anything anymore. When you start saying that anything can be like, so this is so weird, right? Because later in the video, we'll get there. At one point, she states that, pronouns have nothing to do with gender. And she specifies xenopronouns have nothing to do with gender. But if you're using a xenopronoun, I would assume you're referring to a xenogender. Whatever those two things are doesn't really matter because they're both made up and nonsensical. But I think it's very interesting because it's like, it's an umbrella term in which one's gender goes beyond the human understandings of gender, which means no person using these pronouns could possibly understand themselves. And I think that's kind of like the root issue, is that these people are so lost and so confused with who they are as people that they latch on to anything to try and get some sort of glimmer of hope in their life, to try and make some sense of this life that we live, right? And this is totally understandable. And it's just the way that people cope or deal with things differs from person to person, right? And so you'll have like-minded people solving their problems by hitting the gym and working on themselves and going getting therapy and actually making the steps forward to try and improve their life. And then you'll have the people who say that they're frog self or frog person, right? So two groups of people there. But this, I mean, and obviously that's a joke, but obviously this is an extreme. This is an absolute extreme in which there is in no way whatsoever that you could actually get someone to explain this to you in a way that makes sense, because it's designed to not make sense, right? And it's just like you're making conversation difficult when you add stuff into conversation that doesn't make sense, such as this.
Understandings of gender. Basically, xenogender is all of those gender identities like cat gender, star gender, pop gender. You know the drill, right?
Yeah, we do. By now we know the drill. We've been getting the drill since 2012, right? That's probably when it started picking up in popularity, all this stuff. Maybe a little bit later, maybe a little bit earlier, but around that time. Yeah, we know the drill by now, okay? It's just more nonsense.
What I have noticed about this is how often people misunderstand the meaning of xenogenders and their definition.
Well, I'm only human, okay? I'm only human. You literally showed us the definition. You literally showed us the definition that says beyond the human understandings of gender. How are we supposed to understand this if it's beyond the human understandings of gender? Like, by definition, we cannot understand, right? By definition, this is why, like, it's an umbrella term in which one's gender goes beyond the human understandings. And quite literally, you say that you're mad at people for not understanding, and yet it's in the definition.
This is how often people misunderstand the meaning of xenogenders and their definition.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Oh, so
Thank you.
you say your
Yes.
cat gender, so it means you identify as a cat? Bitch, no! If I were to identify as a cat, I would be a fucking otherkin. There's a difference between a xenogender.
Oh, wait, what? Hold up. Nuh-uh. No way.
Identify as a cat? Bitch, no! If I were to identify as a cat, I would be a fucking otherkin. There's a difference between a xenogender and an otherkin. They are.
Do not say I am a cat person. I am not. I am a cat self. I am not a cat person. Do not refer to me as such. Do not refer to me as such. Misgendering asshole, bigot, Trump supporting MAGA specialist. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. No, this is insane. Okay, this is nonsense. That's all this is. This is like people playing in the sandbox. Okay, that's what this is. This is full-grown adults playing in a sandbox. It's just nonsense. It doesn't make any sense. Why are they in the sandbox? Why not just go to the beach? I don't understand. What adult plays in a sandbox? It's for kids. Okay, you don't play in the sandbox as an adult. It's just weird, right? It's like, what? Like, come on. Like, go to the beach, maybe build a sandcastle there or something. But this is insane. And like this idea too, that like somehow she's going to be able to explain something to us where the definition of the thing she's attempting to explain is superior to human understanding. It's like you couldn't even bother to read the definition yourself. Oh, I'm getting riled up. Okay, let's keep going.
There are Therians and otherkins, and there are xenogenders, which are not related.
I'm so confused. Okay. Not that any of this could possibly make sense to me, but I would like to try and understand. Okay. Because if you genuinely believe what you're saying, if you are genuine about the things that you believe, then I want to try and understand it. Okay. And this is not coming from a place of malice or trying to be rude or inciting any sort of like negative emotion on you, but I'm trying to understand what you're talking about because to me, it's batshit insane and doesn't make any sense. So I don't understand how you could possibly say that these two things are unrelated when both are identifying as some sort of feline. Somehow the feline is involved, and then you're saying they're completely unrelated, but they're both referring to pronouns. So they're related in that sense as well. So speech and the actual object or animal or whatever it is that you're referring to is going to be the same. Explain to me. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Whatever. Whatever.
To each other. Can I be a gender and use xenogenders? I'm a gender and I use xenogenders, so yeah.
Yeah, so if I do it, you could do it too. But if I don't do it, it's wrong.
Yeah, you
Got
can.
it. Okay.
Long story short, if someone identifies with a xenogender, they do not identify with the thing that is related to a xenogender. You know, there is cat gender, and there is an otherkin, like a cat otherkin, identifying as a cat. Those two.
Okay. Both are crazy. Both are crazy. It doesn't matter. Like this honestly feels like you're just trying to feel special about yourself, which is totally fine because everyone wants to feel special. I want to feel special. Everyone wants to feel special. It's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that. However, it becomes an issue when you start trying to tell people that they have to use certain pronouns to refer to you, even when you're not in the room. Then you're trying to control speech. This is not about you. It's about everyone else doing what you want them to. Right. And so this entire idea, okay, it doesn't matter. Animal, otherkin, whatever. It's like that, whatever, dude. Like you're still a human. It doesn't matter. Right. Like none of this actually matters. Right. And so it's like very frustrating that we even have to like be at this point in 2024 and still talking about pronouns and stuff like this. Like, I mean, I guess I could just not upload this video, but I'm having fun, so I'm going to. But this is crazy, okay? Someone has to point at the crazy and be like, that's crazy. Someone has to do it, okay? I'll fall on the sword. But this is crazy. This is not okay. That, like, even having the conversation trying to separate these two as if they are not the exact same underlying baseline condition of just wanting to feel special or unique. I mean, treating these two things as if they're separate is also crazy.
Are not related. Identifying with an animal-themed xenogender or a plant-themed xenogender, you know, there are many options to choose from. Let's just stick to
I'm Pickle Rick. I'm Pickle Rick. That's me.
Gender, xenogender as an example.
I just got that. Guys, oh, frick. Rick Sanchez, he's trans. Well, for a bit there, he's trans. Damn.
Feeling strong connection to cats and felines. Oh, so that's just some zoo shit. Again, no bitch, it's not. You know, at this point, this is just a little bit similar to being a Therian. Like, Therians feel spiritual connection to certain animals, which are their stereotypes. Xenogender people feel strong mental connection to a certain thing that is a theme for the xenogender. So no, it's not a sexual attraction. It's usually just a psychological, mental, or spiritual attraction.
Okay. It's okay. It's not a sexual attraction. It's a spiritual, mental, or psychological attraction. So you have some mental things you got to work on. That's what I'm hearing. Okay. And I'm not coming at you. We've all got our issues, but man, oh man, to basically just disregard any sort of criticism because you're like, oh no, it's not sexual. I just really like, I mean, yeah, it just sounds like you really like cats, which is also fine. It's totally fine. No one cares. Everyone likes something. Like, more power to you. Go for it.
It's usually just a psychological, mental, or spiritual attraction. So no, if I ever were to say I'm cat gender, which I am, this does not mean I identify as a cat. This does not mean I shit into a litter box, and
Okay,
it
good.
does not mean I eat cat food for dinner. It just means I am being personally connected to cats and felines in general on a psychological
Okay, so you really like cats. So you really like cats. And that's fine. That's totally fine.
level. Because I freaking love cats, and you
Okay,
can't
yeah.
tell me not to. Now,
Okay, who is telling you not to love cats, man? Who's up in your business telling you not to love cats? Tell that person to go away. But no, you're not you're not cat gender. I'm sorry. It's okay to really like cats. That's awesome. I like dogs. I like cats. There's nothing wrong with that. But doesn't change my gender. I really like RuneScape. I don't identify as a real RuneScape character. I don't know what to tell you, man. I don't know what to say. This entire like, it feels like you really, really want something. Like it feels like you really want something in your life that means something to you, like some sort of purpose or some sort of meaning to your life, which is absolutely understandable. However, all of this doesn't make sense once you start breaking it down and looking at it more closely. And you need to start looking at stuff like this more closely. You can't just accept things and hear things and then regurgitate those things and think that they mean something. Okay, you have to like analyze and break down everything to better understand it. You can't just look at something and be like, "Oh, I know everything about it," right? It's like you can't look at a car and understand how an engine works, right? The only way you're actually going to be able to figure out how an engine works is if you break it down and then rebuild it. Like this entire idea, this is just convoluted gobbledygook. Okay, it's gobbledygook. It's not helpful.
neopronouns. According to our almighty mother Wikipedia, neopronouns are neologistic third-person personal pronouns beyond those that already exist in a language. In English, neopronouns replace the existing pronouns he, she, and they. Neopronouns are usually preferred by some non-binary individuals who feel that they provide options to reflect their gender identity more accurately than conventional.
Okay, yeah, see, it's all about gender. But again, if you feel a certain type of way and you want to use a pronoun for yourself, go for it. But no one else has to. That's the thing. And it's not about respect. It's not about hatred or bigotry. It's not about any of that stuff. It's about knowing that I can use whatever words to refer to whoever I want, whenever I want, and not feel like I'm going to have to face legal consequences for using the wrong pronoun. Right. So this entire idea, this entire conversation really surrounds freedom of speech. And as an American and as someone who loves this country, I don't think that we should be even dipping our toes into any of this, right? Like this should have been squashed back in 2012. This should not be a conversation we're having in 2024, over 10 years later. All of this, right, is nonsense gobbledygook that needs to stop because it doesn't make any sense. And if you feel like you really like cats and you want to refer to yourself as cat person, more power to you. But the idea that someone should be imprisoned or fined or have any sort of legal consequences for not using your preferred pronouns, to me, is batshit insane if you want to try and implement those rules. So this is not about, it's not about you, it's about everyone.
Pronouns. There are them.
And I think that's where a lot of this stems from. It feels very selfish. It feels like the people who want you to use their pronouns, it feels very selfish. It feels like the only person they actually care about is themselves. When they demand that you use their pronouns and only their pronouns, and they'll chew your ass out if you don't. I don't think it's about anyone but themselves. And I think they know that. And I think they're doing it under the guise of, oh, it's about respect and, being polite and all this other stuff and acceptance and validation. It's narcissism.
There are Xi's here. They are AM. They are they them. There are also many variations you can choose from. Another category of neopronouns are xenopronouns, which are all of the object, animal, plant related pronouns.
Yes, object, animal, plant, anything. Okay, it's an umbrella term. Remember, we looked at the definition earlier. It's an umbrella term for all that. Okay, and it's a xenogender, and the xenopronouns are referring to your xenogender. Okay, so I want you to keep that in mind for what she says next.
Star star self, cat cat self, bug bug self, all of this stuff. You know, now I randomly remembered seeing this one TikTok stitch where someone was saying, yeah, I have this one friend whose pronouns are they, them, and paint, paint self. And there was this guy who made a stitch to this video, and he was basically like, oh, paint, paint self, so you identify as paint? For the third time in this video, this does not work like that. Let's say this together, chat. Pronouns do not equal your gender. If someone uses
Okay, yeah, that part. Pronouns, by definition, refer to a person's gender. While we have she, her, he, him, okay, we are referring to the person's gender. And in the vast majority of society, and for the vast majority of people, those pronouns work because you are either male or you are female, okay? And I'm not going to get into intersex, and I don't believe that there are 67 genders or whatever. There are two genders. You are either male or female, and that's it. I'm sorry. I know life is tough. We don't get to decide. It's just the rules are the rules. Okay. I'm sorry. It sucks. I know you're mad. Okay. I didn't make the rules. I'm just following them. And this is exactly why I wanted like to pause here, is because it's just like, this is such nonsense. And it's such a manipulative way to try and get people to do what you want them to do without you having to put in work to be a good person. Like, you could be the worst person ever, and if someone misgenders you or uses the wrong pronouns, right? Like, let's say in Canada or the UK, you can face legal fines or imprisonment. Like, this stuff bleeds into the US, okay? That, like, stuff like this bleeds into other countries. When you have ideologies like this, they bleed out, especially through platforms like TikTok or Instagram or whatever you use, right? Like, these sort of like thought patterns and ideologies and ways of thinking bleed out into other societies and across borders, even if the person is in on the other side of the world. Like, this is exactly why it's important to talk about this stuff, is because it's about speech control. It's not about respect. It's not about being polite. It's not about, you're actually a cat self person. You feel more aligned with cats. That's great. I don't have to refer to you as anything other than she, her, or he, him. So yeah, it's about control.
star star self, they don't identify as a literal star. When someone uses bug bug self, they just feel comfortable with these pronouns. They don't identify as a roach.
Yeah, you know what's interesting about this though is what she brought up earlier surrounding the animal people or whatever, right? And she separated the two and she said they're not the same. There's like the I'm cat self, and then there's like someone who identifies as a cat. Are those people valid? Do you think those pronouns are valid? The people who genuinely identify as a cat, because they exist, right? So like from her point of view, I'm curious to know if she actually thinks those people are valid, right? Because if that's the case, then fucking anything's valid. Like, literally nothing matters. I mean, we're already at that point, even without that, right? Even without the identifying as a cat people. This is just, you feel more spiritually connected to a cat. And so you want to change your gender because of it. Because after all, we're talking about xenopronouns and your xenogender. And if your xenogender is cat self, then your xenopronoun is cat self or cat person or whatever. Then we're all talking about the same thing. You're just trying to convolute the messaging. You're just trying to confuse everyone.
Pronouns not always have to 100% reflect your gender identity. Like, you can be transgender and use they, them. You can be non-binary and use only he, him. You can be a cisgender girl and use she, they. You can all.
Then none of it matters. It doesn't matter if you're non-binary and you use he, him. It doesn't matter. Like, like, none of it matters then. Like, speech has no value at that point.
All mix and match until you find the right sets that fit into your sense of comfort. To me, it has always been super disgusting and super hypocritical to see people in the transgender community throw hands at people who use neopronouns or identify with xenogenders. Here's a little fun fact. Neopronouns, xenopronouns, and xenogenders are usually being used by neurodivergent individuals who are struggling with understanding the traditional concepts of gender and are currently trying to discover themselves the best they can. Oh,
Ah, sure. So this might actually be a good point she's making. A lot of neurodivergent people, people on the spectrum, tend to fall into this. They're more susceptible to falling into this style of thinking, right? In an attempt to better understand who they are. However, I think we're doing them a disservice by lying to them and nudging them down this path. I think we're actually harming them more than helping them, because I think even if you are, I'll say, neurodivergent or on the spectrum or mentally ill or whatever it might be, whatever you want to call it, I don't think the solution is going to be stacking lies on top of that, right? And lying to someone about their gender or what they are, right? Who you are is one thing, and you can build your identity around either hobbies or skills or passions or how you think or whatever it might be. You can build your identity off of those things. But what you are, unfortunately, is not up to you, right? If you identify as a cat, you're not a cat, you're still a human. You're just someone who is very confused. And that's what you are. You are a confused human. And I don't think it's going to be helpful to people who are on the spectrum or who struggle with mental health issues to feed into their delusion of grandeur, right? Thinking that they are spiritually connected to a wolf and howling at the moon at 10 p.m. when everyone's trying to sleep in the neighborhood. I don't think feeding into that delusion is healthy or helpful. And yeah, I'm a big fat bigot, I guess, for thinking that.
themselves the best they can. Oh, but neopronouns are transphobic! There are trans people who do use neopronouns. I know some of them, but they just don't.
That doesn't mean anything, though. That like saying that there's trans people out there who use neopronouns doesn't prove that neopronouns are somehow valid or correct or exist.
Don't make sense to me. Usually, someone who identifies with neopronouns and uses them usually also uses a more conventional pronoun set like he, him, they, them, etc. So
Okay. Okay. All right. Hold up. Pause. Also, not understanding something is not an excuse to bullying. Okay. One, I'm only human, and by definition, I cannot understand xenopronouns because they exist above my level of understanding because I'm only human. Okay, so this is already right off the bat impossible to fulfill because, okay, there's so much wrong with this. Criticizing someone's opinions or ideas is not bullying, okay? It's not. I'm not shitting on you as a person. I'm criticizing your ideas and your way of thought. And that's not you. That's what you think. Okay. There is a difference. There's a separation there that you need to be aware of. That what you think is not who you are or what you are. Okay. You are in control of what you think and how you think. And so telling me that I'm somehow bullying you because I'm criticizing how you think or what you think is just way off the mark, and you're labeling me something that I'm not, just like you're labeling yourself something that you're not, right? So you're building this world up around you of things that are not true and have no basis in reality whatsoever. And also, I can't possibly understand because I'm human. So like, either way, I'm fucked.
you can just use that one instead. But they are cringe. And being cringe is not a crime. But that's just some Gen Z shit. One of the first instances of a
Neopronouns were not coined until the 18th century. One of the first instances of a neopronoun being used was in 1789 when William H. Marshall recorded the use of "oo" as a pronoun. Thon was originally a Scots version of yawn, and that means that or that one. Dude, okay, so if you're referring to like, oh, that one over there, if you're pointing to someone, you say that one over there, is that a pronoun? No, it's not. Nice try. Try again. No, but also, even if they were using it as a pronoun, okay, even if that were the case, people back then could still be wrong, just like people are wrong today. Okay. And you always need to keep in mind in the back of your head that whatever you're hearing, whatever information you're receiving could be wrong. Even if you want to believe it, you have to remind yourself that that shit could be wrong and could be misleading you. Okay. And the same thing goes for back in the day when people were burning witches at the stake because women were smarter than men and were shitting on men's ideas, and they decided to burn a bunch of women at the stake. Mass psychosis, baby. Yeah. So don't trust people just because it happened in the past doesn't mean it was right. And just because it's happening today doesn't mean it's right. And just because it happens tomorrow doesn't mean it's right. So you should always be questioning. You should always be thinking. You should never let other people do your thinking for you. And this is why. It's because you end up with people like this who think this way and can't fathom that they could possibly be wrong. They are so ingrained in their position. They are so stubborn and so stuck on the idea of this, either whether it's identity or pronouns or religion or whatever it might be, whatever it seems to be to you, you always have to keep an open mind because there's new information that comes out every day. And all of this, right? Trying to use some historical reference as an example of why you're right because someone used, and I'll throw up quotes for this, a neopronoun in 1789 somehow proves your point, shows that you don't actually understand what we're talking about, which makes sense, which kind of tracks with the entire theme of this video that I've been reacting to. It just kind of goes to show that like there is a fundamental lack of understanding from people who use pronouns in this way that they don't grasp reality.
Pronoun being used was in 1798 when William H. Marshall recorded the use of O as a pronoun. Whatever. This
You like that? Her face right there. Oh, wait, come on. Come on. Right there. See, I told you. See, I'm right. See? Wikipedia said so. There's no thinking for herself. There's just no thinking happening there. It's a desire to want to believe something and then finding information that fits your belief system. So you have the belief system in place already, and then you go search for information, and then you latch onto that information, and it reaffirms your belief that you already had because you want this thing to be true, right? Because if it doesn't, then you're going to have to start over from square one and figure out who you actually are as a person. And I think that's what scares so many people, right? And it's easier to just believe the lie.
Whatever, this shit just brings the whole LGBT movement down. No, bestie, a random 12-year-old child on TikTok using dog self-pronouns does not bring the LGBT movement down. It's you! There is a
Nah, it brings society down.
literal genocide going around in Palestine. There is a war in Ukraine and people are...
Of course. Okay, so how many flags do you think is in this person's bio on their social media accounts? How many flags? I'm going to go 3 flags. Yeah, 3 flags. I'm going to say 3 flags are probably in their bio. I'm not going to look it up or fact check that. I'm just right. I don't even care. Whatever. So stupid.
Or running away from their country to avoid being shot to death.
No, they're invading Russia right now, girl. What are you talking about? Ukraine has invaded Russia. They're actually across the border. So this is what's so funny, right? The positions will always change based off of, right? And so the goalposts shift for people like this. And this is like the left's ideology in general. And I know I'm like, it's 34 minutes in. This is like, it's all connected. It's all interwoven and interconnected, and you can't have one without the other, and you can't think clearly because you're basically caught in this net of ideas, and all the ideas you have to agree with or align yourself with all these different ideas or positions. And that's the ideology, is this net, right? And this ideological net has encapsulated so many people, especially young people like her, to think this way, that they'll buy into or believe whatever narrative is being pushed or sent out by the masses, right? And so it's that echo chamber where it might start in one corner of the echo chamber, but it propagates so quickly and so rapidly that by the time it hits the end of the echo chamber, there's another wave coming right behind it, right? And that one is the goalposts have shifted, right? So it's like, oh, well, the Trump and Russia were trying to influence elections. It's like, that wasn't true. But of course, that wave propagated, and then there was another wave immediately after, and another, and another, and there's always going to be that wave until you break yourself out of this net. This net is like poison. Okay, this is the net of poison. And it's got so many people wrapped up in it. It's got so many people falling into the trap of believing this stuff and being like, oh man, I'm on Ukraine side, I'm on Palestine side, I'm on this side, that side, or whatever, right? And then as soon as something changes or shifts, you're like, well, I've always been on their side, actually. I'm on the other side now. And it's like, I'm defending their right to defend themselves. It's like, you have no core belief system. You have no core positions that you can actually stand up on and stand true to. So this is like so in line with just the left in general. And of course, naturally, you're going to see people like this, and you're going to know which way they vote. You're going to know every position they hold. You're going to know everything they'll respond to whenever you try and have a conversation with them. And it's always going to be the talking points, right? It's like there is no critical thought or thinking behind any of this. A lot of this stuff is just regurgitated nonsense they hear on either TikTok or Twitter, I guess X, Facebook, Instagram, or wherever. And so these people, they should have just stayed on Tumblr, and the rest of the world could have been happy.
And y'all care more about neopronouns than that? There are so many issues in this world. Sexism, homophobia, misogyny, rape.
Yeah. See, there it is, right? It's all the labels and the bigotry and the blah, 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 and the blah, blah, blah. Okay. Blah, 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 blah.
And you all care more about neopronouns? You know, here's a little story I have for you. Back in like 2020 or 2021, I used to be super confused about xenogenders and neopronouns. I was one of those people who were thinking cat gender is identifying as a cat, etc., etc. Now I know it doesn't work like this. But one thing about me is that despite me not fully understanding neopronouns back then, I never felt the urge to attack someone who actually uses them.
Attack, cyberbully, call delusional or mentally ill, send death threats to someone. Interesting. So this is really okay. So this is really interesting. So anytime she says attack, what she's really saying is you're cyberbullying me, you're calling me delusional, you're calling me mentally ill, or you're sending, for one, never send anyone death threats. That's insane. Don't do that. Okay. Don't be insane. Okay. That's unhinged behavior. If you're sending, even if it's just a joke, it's insane. It's like, why would you even do that? Like, why would you do that though? Like actually, calling delusional or mentally ill. I mean, I don't think someone's, if you're talking about it, right? Like there's a difference between calling someone mentally ill and calling someone retarded, right? And I have a lot of friends who are retarded. I know people who are mentally ill. There's a difference there, and I hope you can distinguish it. If you're smart enough, you will. If you're not very smart, you won't distinguish the difference. Delusional. Plenty of people are delusional. They're everywhere. There's a bunch of people who are delusional nowadays. It's okay to point that out. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, you're not exempt from criticism. Okay. I don't care who you are. You deserve to be criticized. I deserve to be criticized. I don't think anyone is above being criticized by anyone else. Okay. Especially when you're on a public platform like YouTube and you're posting videos. I think you should actually welcome the criticism and take it in with an open mind, but also take it in with a grain of salt too. Right. So like, keep in mind that like, do what you want to do with your content or whatever, but you should be open and receptive to feedback because you're posting on a public platform. You don't get to tell people, oh, you can't talk about my video. You can't do this. You can't do that. It's like, no, you need to be open to criticism and you need to be receptive to the criticism, especially when it's coming from a place of like, hey, I think what you're doing is damaging people more than it's helping people, which is what I think about this. I think all this pronoun stuff, you have convoluted the conversation so much that people are making, like myself, are making videos about this rather than making videos about the wars going on currently in the world. So it's just like, it's a mix of everything, but also like, you guys started this. Like you started with demanding that people refer to you with specific pronouns. So what are we supposed to do? Like we're not supposed to talk about it? I don't know. I think this is one of those silly points that she thinks she can just throw this up on the screen and that it's going to prevent anyone from criticizing her. I'll say it. I'm attacking you. I'm attacking you right now. I'm attacking the way you think, actually. I'm not actually attacking you. I'm attacking how you think. Because I think how you think is insane and it doesn't make sense. And I would like more clarification on why you think these things. And I would like you to better explain yourself, because in no way did you offer any valuable information or any information that could help me better understand your position or you as a person. So yeah, there's my attack. I'm attacking you. Wham, bam. Thank you, ma'am. Sorry. I don't know what to say. I don't know. I think it's perfectly acceptable if you want to surround yourself with people who are happy to call you whatever pronoun you want. I don't think you get to demand that other people call you something. And I think it's really egotistical to think that anyone who's going to be criticizing you is attacking you, right? Like, you say neurodivergent, we're talking about the same thing as mentally ill. There's nothing wrong with being mentally ill. It's like we're talking about the same thing. And that's another thing. Here we go. More ranting. That's another thing. I don't think there's no difference between mentally ill and neurodivergent. We're referring to the same thing. The actual thing that we're referring to is the same. We just changed the name so it sounds cuter, right? So we changed it from mentally ill to neurodivergent. We're really talking about the same thing. And I think if anything, that does more harm to people who are struggling with mental illness, because you're constantly shifting the goalposts like you do with everything. And what ends up happening, and I hope you're listening, what ends up happening is the value there's no long-term sustained understanding of what that term is, because you're constantly changing the term. And so people fail to understand or fail to, I guess, get behind solutions or solving that problem for people who are mentally ill, right? When you're constantly shifting the goalposts by changing names, changing definitions, changing pronouns, right? That's what I meant by nothing means anything. Right? Words don't mean anything. So how are we supposed to communicate? How are we supposed to solve problems if we're not able to work together and communicate on these things? If mentally ill is such an offensive term to you, you need to adjust your stance and your position and your worldview to understand that I'm not talking negatively or in any sort of derogatory way to someone who has mental health conditions. I'm simply stating what it is. They're mentally ill. And you can say, oh, they're neurodivergent, so it makes you feel better because illness sounds like it's a sickness, but it is a sickness, and it's a sickness they didn't ask for, and it's a sickness they didn't have a choice in. But trying to be like, oh, they're neurodivergent, you're making it sound like it's more of a choice. And I feel like that in of itself is going to be far more harmful to people with mental illness than just saying, hey, look, like this is what it is. Here's what we can do to try and help. Instead, we're running in circles around each other, just trying to figure out what we're talking about because you're changing the definitions every 5 seconds. So anyways, that's my thoughts on all of this. Hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.